Time isn't speeding up, but something in how you experience it has quietly changed. And once you see what it is, you can't unsee it. Most people assume time feels faster because they're getting older. That explanation feels comforting because it puts the blame somewhere distant. But it doesn't hold up. Teenagers feel it. People in their 20s feel it. Even children describe weeks disappearing. So if age isn't the reason, what is? The answer isn't found in clocks, calendars, or schedules. It's found in how moments are registered, how memory forms structure, and how modern life reshapes attention without asking permission. And the shift is subtle enough that most people mistake the effect for reality. Time doesn't move forward like a river. It accumulates like sediment. Moments settle, or they don't. When a moment settles, it leaves weight behind. When it doesn't, it passes through unnoticed. Looking back, the difference feels like speed. But what you're actually noticing is density, not duration. You can live through a long day that feels endless, and later realize you barely remember it. You can also experience a short moment that stays vivid for years. This contradiction reveals something important. Time isn't remembered evenly. It expands where experience takes shape. It collapses where experience remains shallow. The clock never changes. But the imprint does. Time feels long in memory when it contains difference. Difference between before and after. Difference between expectation and reality. Difference between one moment and the next. When days are similar, memory compresses them. 5 identical days become one recollection. 5 distinct days become a story. This is why routine months disappear, and unfamiliar weeks feel expansive. Childhood is often described as slower, but not because time moved differently. It felt slower because everything was uncharted. Every experience demanded attention. Every moment created a new reference point, nothing blended yet. Adulthood replaces novelty with efficiency. Efficiency removes friction, and friction is what slows perception. The smoother life becomes, the faster it seems to slide. Repetition does something strange. While you're inside it, it feels neutral, manageable, predictable. The acceleration happens later. When you look back and realize how little separated one day from the next, the calendar shows months. Memory shows fragments. Time didn't speed up. It failed to mark itself. Time doesn't stretch when you're busy. It stretches when attention stays unbroken. Modern life fragments attention relentlessly. Messages interrupt thoughts. Notifications puncture continuity. Background stimulation fills silence. Each interruption feels small, but together they thin experience. Nothing deepens. Nothing consolidates. Time feels fast because moments never settle long enough to gain weight. Stimulation feels like richness, but too much stimulation erases contrast. When everything demands attention, nothing earns it. The nervous system adapts quickly. What once stood out becomes background. This is why hours of scrolling can disappear completely, yet leave almost no memory behind. The mind was active, but experience never formed structure. There is a difference between being occupied and being present. You can be mentally busy without being perceptually anchored. Multitasking feels productive. Constant input feels engaging. But neither creates depth. Depth is what gives time substance. Without depth, moments slide past without resistance. Busyness fills schedules, not memory. When tasks stack without completion, the mind never registers closure. Closure creates temporal boundaries. Without boundaries, time loses shape. This is why full days can feel hollow afterward. Not empty of action, empty of endpoints. There are 2 timelines running simultaneously. The time you experience in the moment and the time you remember afterward. They rarely align. A slow meeting can feel endless while it happens, yet vanish from memory. A short conversation can last minutes, yet echo for years. Time stretches where meaning consolidates. It collapses where meaning fails to form. Modern systems optimize for speed, convenience, and efficiency. But convenience removes pause, and pause is where time thickens. Waiting rooms, long transitions, moments of silence, these used to create texture between events. When transitions disappear, experience becomes smooth. And smooth experiences slide. Being reachable at all times fragments continuity. Thoughts don't finish. Moments don't close. Every interruption pulls you slightly out of the present moment. Not enough to notice, but enough to prevent consolidation. Time requires containment to leave a trace. This isn't a call to do less. And it isn't about forcing mindfulness. Trying to slow time directly doesn't work. Effort adds pressure. Pressure compresses awareness. Time expands indirectly. As a side effect of how moments are allowed to land, time stretches when moments are distinct. Not dramatic, not intense, distinct. A task finished cleanly. A walk without distraction. A conversation that completes instead of drifting. These moments act as anchors. Anchors give memory structure. Structure gives time length. When time feels fast, life feels thin. When life feels thin, people chase intensity to compensate. More stimulation, more noise, more speed. But intensity without depth collapses even faster. It creates spikes, not structure. And spikes don't stretch time, they fragment it. Feeling like time is slipping away creates quiet anxiety. Not panic, but a sense that life is passing without substance. Understanding why time feels fast doesn't slow the clock. It changes how moments register. And that changes everything downstream. Time hasn't been stolen from you. It hasn't disappeared. It's been passing through without leaving a trace. And once you understand what creates that trace, time begins to feel substantial again, without slowing a single clock. What most people don't realize is that this isn't just personal, it's structural. Modern life is designed in a way that quietly compresses time, even when nothing feels urgent. In earlier decades, life contained natural pauses. Waiting, travel time, moments between events. These pauses weren't empty. They were where experience settled. Modern systems remove pause wherever possible. Instant delivery, instant replies, instant access. Efficiency feels like progress, but pause is what gives time thickness. When pause disappears, experience becomes smooth. And smooth experiences slide. Convenience reduces friction. Friction slows perception. When friction disappears, nothing resists the flow of events. You move from one thing to the next without transition. No decompression, no closure. The day doesn't feel rushed while it's happening. It feels continuous. Later, it feels short. Time didn't speed up. It never had a chance to separate itself into parts. Being reachable at all times has a subtle effect. Thoughts don't finish. Moments don't fully close. Every interruption pulls attention slightly outward. Not enough to feel chaotic, just enough to prevent consolidation. Time requires containment to leave a trace. When attention is always partially elsewhere, experience never fully lands. People focus on events, but memory is built in the space between them. Transitions tell the mind that one thing has ended and another has begun. Without transitions, events blur together. A day becomes one long, undefined stretch. Later, it feels like it vanished. Not because nothing happened, but because nothing was framed. Endless feeds are designed without stopping points. No natural end, no completion signal. The mind stays in a suspended state. active but unresolved. This creates a strange effect. Time disappears while scrolling, but leaves no memory afterward. The mind was occupied, but experience never formed shape. When people say time feels fast, what they usually mean is that it feels thin. Thin time lacks texture. It lacks weight. It passes easily because nothing catches on it. Thickness comes from boundaries, pauses, completion, contrast. Remove those, and time slides through unnoticed. When time feels thin, people feel unease, not panic, not fear, a quiet sense that life is passing without substance. This is why people chase intensity. More stimulation, more novelty, more noise, but intensity without structure doesn't thicken time. It fragments it further. This isn't solved by doing less, and it isn't solved by forcing stillness. Trying to slow time directly usually fails. Effort adds pressure. Pressure collapses awareness. Time expands indirectly. As a side effect of how moments are allowed to close, time regains weight when moments have edges, a beginning, a middle, an end. Completion matters more than speed. A single finished action does more for time perception than 10 rushed ones. Distinct moments create anchors. Anchors give memory structure. Structure gives time length. When time thickens, life feels fuller. Without becoming busier, days don't feel longer in the moment. They feel more real afterward. Looking back, time doesn't vanish. It remains. Not because more happened, but because what happened had shape. Time isn't something you lose, and it isn't something you chase. It's something that forms, or doesn't. When life removes the conditions that allow time to form, it slips through unnoticed. And when those conditions quietly return, time begins to feel substantial again, without slowing a single clock.